behind 911. Not just oil, not just weapon sales, not just the pretext to invade sovereign nations and empower this world government, but also that key belt of opium production. In fact, before 911, only about 10% of opium was being produced there with the poppies. Now it's over 60%. You know, I've been very frustrated in the 8 documentary films that I've produced because I could spend an entire program just covering one aspect of the New World Order. But to understand the total enslavement system they're designing for you and your family, that we're already deep into, but it's getting worse in the degrees, you need to have an understanding of the entire system and how it fits together in this web of tyranny and slavery. A key area that we need to look at is government-sponsored terrorism. How do the globalists get us to accept giving up our liberties and freedoms? Well, it's simple. They scare the daylights out of us with terrorist events they create. They pose as our saviors. We go to them asking for help, and they give us solutions that get the chains more tightly fitted to our ankles and mainly to our minds. Let's look at just a few examples of this, and they are voluminous. I would just hope that everyone out there visit Infowars.com on a daily basis to see even more examples of this. A long time ago in my study, I discovered that white supremacist, Hispanic supremacist organizations, almost all racial organizations in the world are actually founded, not just funded and controlled, by the globalist, by the MI6/CIA Mossad control arm. Whether it's Hamas, which Yitzhak Rabin, a former, he was assassinated, Israeli prime minister, admitted. In fact, UPI and Reuters and Haaretz, a major Jewish newspaper, have now admitted this. Why would Israel found Hamas, the group that engages in terror bombings? Because then the military state, military dictatorship that oppresses Jews as well as Palestinians, gets to maintain its control over the Middle East. It's its pretext for attacking its neighbors, expanding its boundaries, having police state controls, censorship over the Israeli media. This is how they maintain control. I mean, why does the mob, burn down your grocery store? So you'll buy protection from them. I mean, it's really simple. But with neo-Nazis especially, there's been cases here in Texas. They caught them in Fort Worth. The FBI created a Klan group back in the late 90s, tried to get them to blow up a chemical plant. The sheriff found out and stopped it. There have been countless examples that we've covered. But it just came out that the modern neo-Nazi groups in Germany were founded in 1963 by MI6, British intelligence. And it just broke in German courts that the entire leadership of the National Democratic Party, NPD, who's been caught firebombing people, murdering folks in Germany, the entire leadership, the top 30 people, and it's a small organization, a little over 200 members, the entire leadership, those that print the newspaper, that give the orders, that have the rallies, are German intelligence. So it's not German intelligence inside the NPD, it's German intelligence running it, and it was, of course, founded by their bosses, MI6. And it admits in these Scotsman and BBC and London Telegraph headlines that the government ran the organizations as agent provocateurs paid by intelligence services. And why did it come out in court that the government was doing this? To create fear so Germany could pass laws restricting everyone's mobility, everyone's freedom, banning other mainstream political organizations that are nationalist in Germany, that are standing up for that government sovereignty against EU expansion. So it's simple. You want everybody to give their rights up? You create Nazis who go out and kill some people. The government goes, oh look, they're dangerous. Let us take your rights to keep you safe. And they've been caught doing it. Same thing just came out in England. Turns out that MI5, MI6, and Army intelligence officers have gone public that the British government pays Al-Qaeda hundreds of thousands of dollars in the 90s to carry out assassinations all over the world, little proxy groups. Intelligence agencies love to use organized crime and terrorist groups they created to carry out their terror. And officers went public on this. They quit. Some of them were jailed over it. The government didn't deny the facts of what they said, but they would arrest them. And it turns out that almost all the bombings in London and in Ireland over the last 24 years, since 1980, were conducted by different arms of British intelligence. They didn't even provocateur it. They weren't just the heads of it, which they were. They didn't have somebody else go do it. They actually bombed buses and churches and buildings. And why? As an excuse to have a crackdown police state in London and all over England, and to keep a military occupation force in Northern Ireland. It's incredible. And this was just calmly announced in dozens of major British newspapers in late 2002, early 2003. And then as soon as the stories appeared, they disappeared. The government never refuted it. They admitted it was true. In fact, the government said, well, we wanted to look legitimate to the terrorist groups, so we did this. But they founded and controlled the groups. And again, use that fear to control the country. It's been in our news as well that in Georgia, law officers involved with supremacists actually running the groups. That was in the Athens Banner Herald. But let's look at some even more serious geopolitical versions of crisis creation. We've all heard about North Korea threatening to nuke their neighbors, threatening to nuke South Korea, threatening to nuke the United States. But did you know that it was the U.S. government, Republican and Democrat administrations, they're all together on these key issues, armed North Korea with the reactors that could produce upwards of 100 nuclear warheads a year. They also helped transfer computers and missile systems to China illegally under Clinton, and now under Bush. He's gotten rid of all the restrictions, and somehow the neocons don't have a problem with that. It's crazy. He's out Clinton and Clinton. That's all being transferred to North Korea, being transferred to Pakistan, who's threatening India. And out of this whole global destabilization, now they're talking about universal drafts and wars with all these countries. North Korea threatens to destroy the world. But we're supposed to forget the headlines. Clinton deal gave North Korea 100 nuke per year capacity. But wait, then the Republicans say it's just the Democrats. Oh no, it's the whole government. It turns out Donald Rumsfeld, who was also the bag man in the 80s arming Saddam with chemicals and biologicals, was on the board of ABB, the company that delivered this nuclear technology to North Korea in the late 1990s. Think about that. This guy's the super gopher of the New World Order for weapons of mass destruction, proliferation. And then he's the guy that tells us we've got to give up our liberties or the terrorists are going to get us. I think we know the terrorist is you, Mr. Rumsfeld. You're the one that needs to be arrested for endangering America. It's just incredible. Also, during the whole war with Iraq, that staged event, the U.S. government kept a tight lid on a story that was front page in South Korea. The Taepong-Tong-2 intermediate-range missile that can hit areas of the U.S. western seaboard actually launched a test missile. North Korea did. They've done it many times in Japan, and that's public. But they launched a test missile that hit Alaska. That's right. First they were reporting that it splashed down hundreds of miles off our coast. Then it turned out that pieces of it actually hit Alaska. And why did our government keep that quiet? How could we invade Iraq and say they were more of a threat than anybody else when North Korea is threatening to nuke us and launching test missiles and hitting Alaska, our 49th state? And this came out, of course, out of official South Korean newspapers. Why did they release this news? They were told to be quiet by the U.S. government. They're afraid. They want the world to know what a threat North Korea is. And at the same time, the Associated Press reported that still, as North Korea is threatening to nuke us, U.S. providing North Korea with nuke info, while the Bush administration confronts North Korea over developments of nuclear weapons, it is allowing the regime access to thousands of documents on nuclear technology as part of an electronic power project. And then you see headlines about how dangerous Iran is. We've got to invade Iran next. Iran has, these enriched uranium plants. Very, very advanced. But there's a problem. We're supposed to forget the confirmed news reports from the BBC and other publications that the UK, the US, and Israel transferred Iran these systems in the 1990s right up until 2001. And why are they proliferating? Because then they got to have this global government and this global